Hi, this is Annie of Boho Chic Fiber Co. And today I'm going to show you how to work the embroidery on my All Things spring shawl. And as you can see in the pattern, there's these little flowers embroidered onto the shawl. And it's really simple to do, so I'm going to go ahead and show you how to do that now. So in the pattern, it will tell you how to mark out your shawl for the placement of the flowers. And as you can see, I've left one here that I have not finished doing yet, so I'm going to show you how to do that now. First, you're going to be making, all you need to do for this is actually little lazy daisy stitches around and then a French knot in the middle. So take your lighter colored yarn and just get a length of it onto your darning needle. And however you marked it out, if you used stitch markers or some other way, you're going to take that out, and wherever that spot was that you marked, you're going to come up from the back of your work. And I have my thread folded through the needle so that I have two strands that I'm working with. And you're going to leave a tail on the wrong side of your fabric here, just a couple inches long or so. And to do the simple lazy daisy stitch, all you need to do is pull the yarn up and over, making like a loop. You're going to enter into the hole that you came out of, and then you're going to come up at the length that you want your stitch to be. And you're going to catch that loop at the top. And then to anchor that stitch down, you're just going to be doing a little tiny stitch right after, as you can see right here, right after that loop. And pull that through and see you've anchored that stitch down. So now we've done one. We want to do 5 of them around to make the flower stitch. The first ones that we make, these white ones, are going to be a little bit larger, and then we're going to work the smaller ones inside them. So just keep that in mind, that you want it to be big enough that you can do a stitch on the inside of it as well. So I'm going to go ahead and do another one. We're going to insert into the same place we came out of, in the center, come up from our work, pull our yarn, and it catches that loop there. And then we're going to anchor that stitch down. So there's 2. And I find that it's helpful to turn our shawl as we're working on it. So you're always going to be coming out of the same hole in the center. So come out of there again and pull that loop around, enter through the hole, come up and out, and catch that loop and anchor it down. And as you're working on these, you want to make sure that you just are really gentle. You don't want to pull this too tightly because it'll pucker your fabric. So just, if anything, a little bit looser I think is better. So just try to be mindful to not pull too tight, and if you do pull a little tighter, you can always pull that stitch out and loosen it up a bit. So let's do the last 2, coming out through that center hole. And they don't have to be perfect, but just kind of eyeball it and make sure that you know, they're spaced fairly even. So once you've got these 5 lazy daisy stitches in the white, you're going to turn over your work, and you can see the wrong side of it. You could choose to either tie these together and make a little knot and then tie it off, or you can take your yarn and just kind of weave it in and out like you were weaving in ends, just to kind of weave it and catch that and weave it through. I'm never super neat about this. I'm sure there's a really neat way to do it, but I'm pretty lazy. Once you weave it through a few times, then just take your scissors and snip it. And then we're going to do the second round in the next color. So there's our little lazy daisy. So now we take our other color, which I've used a darker reddish color for this, and we get it thread it on our needle in the same way. We're going to be using the 2 strands. So thread it through, And then to make these, you're doing the same stitch, but you're going to be coming up not from the center, but just from a little bit above the center in one of the loops. And again, on the first time especially, make sure that you leave that tail on the wrong side of your work and catch it with your hand so that you don't pull it through to the front. Now we're going to be working a little lazy daisy stitch and come up just before the end of the first one and tack it down. So you can see we have that stitch right inside of the other stitch. So going to the next one now, just a little bit above the center mark there. And being careful not to pull it too tight to pucker the fabric. We're just going to work these little lazy daisy stitches inside of the larger ones. Sometimes when you have two strands like this, one will get caught, so just kind of pull on one to make it flatten out. And I probably should have mentioned at the beginning, but it's good to practice this on a swatch first so that you can get the tension right. If you do make a mistake, it's not a big deal. You can always just snip this yarn and take it out and rework it. But you just want to be very careful if you're doing that you don't catch the shawl fabric at all and cut that, because that would not be an easy fix. So here's the last one we're going to do. And once you're done with the last one, we're going to work that little French knot stitch right in the center. And this is one stitch that you might want to practice if you're new to embroidery. You might want to practice it before doing it on here because it can be a little tricky. So for a French knot, all you're going to do is have your needle in your right hand. You're gonna kind of lay it flat on there, wrap the yarn around 3 times around that needle, and then we're going to insert the needle back into the work, but you don't want to put it in the exact same hole, so just move it over just very slightly so that it's not in the same hole. If it's in the same hole, it'll pop through to the back, so just move it slightly over from where you came out of the work. Once you get your needle in, you want to put your fingers on either side of the needle on the back of your work to help steady it. And then on the front, use your thumb to hold that strand out to the side, kind of keeping it taut. Once you do that, you can take your right hand to the back of your work, and you can even put this thumb on the knot a little, just kind of steadying it. With your right hand, you're going to be pulling your needle through, and I like to give it a little wiggle as I do. And you're going to pull that thread all the way through gently until it makes a little knot on the front of your work. And they can be, sometimes they're a little bit tidier than other times. The more you practice, the more you'll get the tension right and it'll work out. So when you're done with that, you're going to flip to the back of your work again. And again, you could choose to tie these together and knot them and then snip the ends. Or you could just go through a few times and weave it in, which I found just kind of worked a little easier for me to weave them in like this. And then once you're done weaving, you're just going to take your scissors and snip it close to your work. And you're all set. So that's the one we just made. And like I said, they're all going to be slightly different. Embroidery is one of those things that they never turn out perfect or exactly the same. At least mine doesn't. So just take your time, and you're going to be working these. You'll pin out the points where they belong on the shawl and then work them one at a time. One other thing to note is make sure that you're blocking your shawl first. You don't want to be doing this before it's blocked. So make sure it's blocked out first. And then on the wrong side, make sure that when you're working one flower, you cut and you weave in the ends before you move on to the next. You don't want to carry the yarn over because then you get a really long float and it'll be really messy on the wrong side of your work. So thanks for checking out this video. I hope it was helpful. If you have any other questions, feel free to leave me a message below or send me an email. Thanks. Bye.